Just a couple days ago, Tesla updated us on the current run rate of GigaBerlin, which I love that they're willing to do this just via tweets, by the way. They don't have to save it for a shareholder deck or an earnings call. They just came forward and said, congratulations on GigaBerlin hitting 1,000 vehicles built within a single week, which essentially, if you extrapolate that throughout the year, means that within just the first 3 months of GigaBerlin starting first deliveries and being online producing vehicles, they're now at an annual run rate of over 50,000 vehicles per year, and of course, that run rate is updating every single month. According to Troy Teslike, they started out with around 1,700 in April, over 2,700 in May, and now with a targeted run rate of over 4,000 in June. So even though Giga Shanghai technically had a faster ramp, I feel like it probably had a few unfair advantages compared to Berlin. So for one, there's a ton of silicon, electronics, and transistors and batteries all built in China already. So shipping all of those components and supplies to Giga Shanghai was likely very cheap, very easy, whereas a lot of stuff still has to be imported to Giga Berlin right now because they're not building their own cells yet. They're using 2170 cells from LG that has to be shipped over. But I'm sure as Tesla builds out their 4680 assembly line at Giga Berlin, they will slowly be able to ramp up production faster because they won't have to rely as much on imported parts and cells. They're also hiring like crazy right now and posting record job applications because they need more and more people to work at this factory. And just as someone who remembers the very first tweet Elon made announcing Giga Berlin and following the construction updates from Tobias Lind so closely, it's so cool to actually see these numbers finalize and lots of deliveries happening all over Europe from this localized factory. And I want to emphasize more that Giga Berlin and gigafactories in general and how quickly Tesla is able to ramp them up is the reason I believe they have an unbeatable lead. Like, to give you guys some perspective, I know it's not an apples to apples comparison, but Rivian and Lucid both had their factories come online months before Giga Berlin did, and yet Giga Berlin just within a matter of weeks was able to surpass them in total production, and I think will continue to have a lead on these companies probably indefinitely. Now, I know why that's the case. It's because Tesla's been mass producing EVs for years. Rivian and Lucid are startups and maybe don't have as much experience in this department, and the Model Y requires much smaller battery packs than these vehicles. But these advantages Tesla has going for them, I don't think purely come just from time. It's not just like magically after 10 years your factory somehow becomes more efficient. No, it's because Tesla has learned so much about mass production, and they have studied the art of ramping up electric vehicles, and they've learned a lot that I think Rivian and Lucid could take some cues from, because Tesla had to make a lot of mistakes, and Tesla had a lot of growing pains and production hell that they had to power through, but they learned from those mistakes, and Elon had that strategy of being less wrong and taking advice from Sandy Munro in order to find ways of simplifying the assembly process and find ways to ramp up production faster, because whether or not you agree with Tesla's approach, because you may think, oh, if they ramp up too fast, the quality control's not going to be great, or I don't care for the design language of the interior because it's not as stylized or doesn't look as cool maybe as much as a Rivian or Lucid interior. But ultimately, if you define success by which EV brand is the most profitable or which EV brand is able to deliver the most electric vehicles to consumers, Tesla is consistently going to be winning and ahead of the competition in this regard, because they're willing to make those compromises and they're willing to figure out how to make their design more efficient, how to achieve great range that people are happy to buy and utilize while using smaller total battery packs. So because of the inefficiencies that you have with a Rivian, or because of that mandatory we need 500 miles of range on the Lucid, that severely cuts into your production ramp, and that severely cuts into your total revenue, which may end up killing off or severely handicapping a lot of these EV brands because they're not able to ramp that quickly. They're not able to collect that much profit off their vehicles. So that's why I think it's dangerous to have this mindset of, well, you know, we'll just take it slow. We're going to build our EVs with great quality control and make sure every panel gap is perfect. And even if that means we're not going to deliver as many vehicles, that's okay because we care about quality more than quantity. Yeah, that's honorable, and I understand that you want your consumers to feel like they got a great product, but if that dependence on quality control and if that dependence on the range being so good requires you to utilize huge battery packs that severely limit your production growth, and that ends up driving you bankrupt, is it really that great an alternative? Yeah, the consumers may feel like they got a better deal or they got a better product, but if you can't service those vehicles because you can't survive the recession, that's also not going to be great for the consumer either. So I know Tesla is not known for having the best quality control or having the most desirable interiors, and now not even having the best range. In fact, they're not even known for having the lowest prices anymore, but they clearly have developed a product that they're able to scale profitably and ramp up so dang fast that they can start up these new factories and within just a couple of months have a run rate of over 50,000 annually. And I'm sure by the end of this year, GigaBerlin's run rate is probably going to be around 200,000, maybe more. And because Tesla is able to do that and they're able to stay afloat, that's why I believe no other company is going to touch them in total EV deliveries or EV profitability, which does matter in the long run because of how much money it's going to cost to build this many vehicles. And if your company's running out of money and has to go further into debt, your future is not going to look so bright. So I feel like a lot of people glance over these details, and that's why I wanted to talk about it in today's video. It's very impressive how quickly Tesla is able to ramp up production like this, and I think other EV startups or even legacy auto out there should pay close attention to what Tesla is doing. You know, Ford right now had to shut off orders on the Mach-E, and they're even telling dealers not to sell them because of safety concerns. But in more recent interviews talks about how the Ford Mach-E, because of the rising cost of parts and components, is not even profitable anymore. So Ford has very little incentive to ramp up production of these vehicles, which shows in the numbers. They're not ramping up production that much, because if they lose money on every one they sell, that's not really going to help them in the short term. So pay attention to the casting press technology that Tesla uses, and pay attention to their simplified approach of manufacturing and design, making vehicles that are simple, that don't have that much complexity, so that you have less parts to worry about and you can ramp up faster and more profitably. That way these brands are actually incentivized to sell more of their product instead of, well, I guess we're selling EVs so we can say we care about the environment, but don't make too many of these because it costs us money actually to deliver them to people. So well done, GigaBerlin. I think it's awesome what you're achieving so far, and I'm also very excited to see where else their product line goes. You know, right now they're just building basically black and white performance Model Ys. That simplifies assembly and makes the ramp go smoother, so I get why they're doing that. But when the 4680 cells come online, I think they are very likely to introduce that same all-wheel drive Model Y that we have coming out of Giga Texas, because that's using structural 4680 batteries right now, and that one should be more affordable. It probably won't be the cheapest EV on the market, but later this year, I assume they're going to launch that maybe around the end of Q3, early Q4, and there will be a cheaper, you know, standard range Model Y that I'm sure will have pretty great margins, and GigaBerlin will be able to ramp that pretty quickly. So thanks again to everyone on Patreon supporting us directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again, and have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.